Hey guys, here we are with another podcast. It's a Tuesday. I hope everybody's having a good start of the week. It's around that time of year when everything's getting busy out there, so watch that traffic and everything out there, guys. I know it's bloody crazy around these areas, I'll tell you what. Remember, everybody's got a lot of crap on their mind right now, so have a little patience out there. Today we're going to be talking about Imposter Syndrome. Yeah, one of those things I've felt quite a bit myself, I tell you what, through this journey. So, I'm going to start out right at the very beginning of where I started, and then going to give you some tips and talk about what you can and look at it a little bit differently on the cans instead of the can'ts. So stick around, guys, grab yourself a cuppa and tune in. Well, let's get started. I'm just going to start right at the very beginning, I think, because I was wondering how to really put this together. I actually wrote a bunch of notes down this time for myself so I can start following a little. I know when I first started my first podcast, I just wanted to jump on and just start and get it going. The excitement got me, but I wanted to start with this one, especially with this subject. I wanted to write some things down. I started doing a whole bunch of research as well and learning a whole bunch more as well, which, I'll tell you what, guys, that always helps me, that's for sure. So I wanted to start at the beginning of how I really got into the work. And I was over at Judith's office one day before COVID, and I went there on this one day. It was I'd been doing therapy for a bit, and got into her office this one day. I remember it clearly. She had an intern that ended up quitting, and she looked at me and said, "Can you step up?" Yeah, I can remember that. I can remember that day like yesterday. I remember looking at her with a bit of a glazed look in my eyes going, "What? You mean actually, like, do the job?" And she says, "Yeah." And the first words out of my mouth were, "But I don't have a degree." As I'm pointing up at the wall, which is absolutely plastered with wallpaper of all kinds of different pieces of paper that Judith's gone off and, got educated on, and it's on her wall. And I'm looking at that thinking, I don't have that. And even though I've got my certification now, I got a certification this year, very recently actually, in counselling. But I didn't have anything then. And I knew, what did I know? And I'd been going over there and helping her out with energy healing, because I'm an energy healer too. I do energy healings too, pranic healing. So I'd been going over there and sitting in with clients' permission and hearing some of the conversations that were going back and forth, a little bit of a therapy session at the beginning, which I ended up getting asked, what's my opinions, and I started giving some opinions, and it just went from there. So when Judith said step up, I'm thinking that, I don't know anything, even though she'd been watching me like a bloody hawk. Little did I know. So I just said, yeah, all right. Because I was fed up with running away all the time. And it was time to look at where I was at and starting to put the therapy to the test. And, I know no way near what I know now, even then. But it was time to stop running. and it was time to stop, saying the no and face the fears and move forward. But once I got into the work and I started doing the work is when the imposter syndrome started kicking in a little bit. And I didn't realise how much this has kind of followed me a little bit as well. But nothing was stronger than this because, no degree. I didn't have no degree. But like I say, I was fed up with running. Judith, my therapist, had every faith in the world that I could go forward and do this. And I started out doing it just voluntary. I just started taking people on and not really, not charging. And then went off with a low down number and for charging. And well, I say low down, depends on the perspective, I guess, right? I mean, if you've got someone that can't really afford it, it's not low, right? But anyway, a beginner entry in this trade, I should say, very, 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 very beginner, because I was. But then it just started growing, and it just started getting better. But as I was able to charge that little bit more because of how I was working and how I was getting people forward, that imposter syndrome picks up a little bit. Because you get into that, well, how can I be doing this? But I was, and I've got many, many people, out there that can vouch for me as well. But, everything starts coming into your head. You don't have the degree. I haven't paid my dues. I got mental health myself. How are they going to trust me? But they just keep coming, and the results keep moving, and I keep moving forward, and I'm getting awesome comments and feedback too. But anyway, my therapist and I got into the conversation around this recently, and I just wanted to share something with you what she said to me, and it really does ring a bell with how far I've come along, because I'm able to actually look at this and take this on board and understand it, whereas before I would look at things like this and be like, yeah, okay. You take it on board, you understand it, but the person on the other end of it is saying it means every single word of it. But I used to take it on board, but for a short period, and I'll be looking again for another comment. But anyway, she said, you did the work hard to learn about your own mental stuff. You suffered and battled through living it. And through it all, you kept persevering and to understand, to find solutions, to find the reasons for stuff. When I noticed how badly you wanted to understand, I also realized that you were serious about the learning. I guess the motivation was to heal your own mental struggles, but eventually it expanded to helping others and sharing with others the thing you have learned. So are you an imposter? No way. You're the real deal. I'll tell you what, guys, things like that puts a lump in my throat. It really does. Because, it's not the first time that I've been told by my therapist, who I look up to greatly, and you get a comment like that from someone like that I look up to, which kind of comes into when I go back and start telling you about the things you can do and the things to look at. That comes into that, and looking up to Judith the way I do, and then getting comments like that. There is no question, right? And it's looking at those things and taking them on board as truth. So let me get into a little bit about it's kind of like where I've come from and how my experience started with it. And these are some things that you can use, guys, because it's a difficult one to take on board when you have this imposter kind of thing going on. You're thinking that you're an imposter. Going back a little bit. I mean, one of the things that I talk about, or what Judith is meaning, is the fact that I've been through the journey. I've been through a lot with mental health, with my anxiety, with my depression. Judith said to me when I started there, a little while after I started there, that I was probably the worst case of anxiety and depression she's ever seen. I used to fear the phone, guys. There was a lot of different fears. It always stopped me from going forward. I never expanded. And where does that put you? It puts you in trauma because you want to go forward. You want to expand. But when you get these things that keep on cropping up, through your mental health, you start to believe that more than you actually believe yourself, and that becomes the driving force, is the actual anxiety or the depression or whatever it is. It's a very difficult situation to be in, and everybody has their different traumas, guys. There's some that's full on that you can actually see that trauma, and there's some of those where people can be manipulated, controlled, which isn't seen. You can't see that, but people grow up and they sit in front of you, as adults, sitting in front of you going, I don't understand. And then you start looking and it's plainly obvious, but it wasn't obvious until I went on this journey and learned my own journey and my own self. And that's what allowed me to be able to see all this in others. So that's my degree, guys. That's my experiences. I've been lived with this for a long time. I'm 55 years old right now. And I can remember the first time I had anxiety when I was about 5. And so, yeah, I've had it quite a few years, and I've been working on myself with Judith for about the last 5 years. And to be sitting here and telling you how I am now and where I'm at now is unbelievable. But that imposter syndrome did come in, and so, sometimes it will creep in every now and again. But right at the beginning, yeah, it was one of those, like, how am I going to do this? And like I just said, that the pieces, parts that you look at and you say, well, I'm not this and I'm not that. But anyway, I don't want to ramble too much now. I want to get back on. You got a better understanding of where mine came from and how it all started and the whys. So let's talk about some things here, guys. The first thing I've got on my list here is something that I've called "Who's That?" And it goes back to what I said about Judith, and it's that looking up to somebody is great, right? If you look up to somebody, that's a great thing. But if you compare yourself, that's not so great, guys, right? Because then you're going to start getting into the I'm not good enough, and I don't have what they have, and they are better than me, and right. The one thing you got to remember is, those that do move forward, right? And all those people that you're comparing yourself with all started somewhere. And if some of these people that you're looking up to just got dropped into it, where's their knowledge base? How have they learned anything? It's okay going to school and learning all these things, but when you really start to learn, guys, is when you get out there in the field and you start being around it. That's when you really start learning. I went through all chefing school and got all my qualifications and went through some kitchens. But you know what? That first day that I walked out of that college and walked in a kitchen and they say, okay, now you do it our way, right? That's where you're going to get all your experiences from. So, like I say, it's okay looking up to somebody and having them as a goal and following them for a goal. But if you start comparing and start saying those things like I just said, I'm not good enough, I don't have what they have, then you're going to start holding back because the fears are going to start getting in the way. Next one is think about where you've come from, right? Where you're sitting now, you didn't get there by mistake. You had to make some choices and decisions to be able to get there. Right? And you didn't get there without hard work. So you're doing something right. You had to look at opportunities and to go through some of those fears of not feeling enough to be able to get to the area of feeling enough. So, when you want to feel enough, then push through the things that are not making you feel enough and that will ultimately get you to the other side of feeling enough, right? Otherwise, you're going to stop. You're going to stop up on the fears. You're going to go into some of those depressions. You're going to start not feeling enough. But the whole thing to feeling enough is doing it, right? So remember where you've come from, because, you know, even when you was born, you didn't start walking straight away. You had to fall down. You had to smack your head a few times. You had to fall over. You got back up. You crawled. You pulled yourself up on things. You probably cried a lot from smacking yourself around. But what are you doing right now? You're walking. Well, I hope you are, right? I know there's people out there that are not, unfortunately. But you wasn't born with what you know and what you have now, okay? You wasn't born with that. The knowledge had to come from somewhere, and you had to work to get there. The other piece, accept your bumps will happen, right? And the reason I say bumps, everybody will say mistake, but the reason I say bumps, because it's much smoother. You can go over a bump, around a bump, and through a bump, right? You'll find a way over a bump. You know, when you say mistake, it's like dropping a big wall in front of you, right? So I always say, you know, bumps, but be aware that, you know, that's going to happen. But that's where your learning is again. If you don't make those bumps, if you don't slip here and there, how are you going to have the knowledge to learn to go forward? So just accepting that the fact that the bumps will be there, right, is gonna help you, because otherwise, when that imposter syndrome comes in, you think that you can't. You think that you can't make those bumps, and it's okay to do that. People will say to you, "Oh, don't make mistakes. I can't afford mistakes." But you know what? It's a little bit of a challenge to ask some of that, because you know what? That person will grow better and learn more if they do make mistakes. Okay? So accepting the fact that the bumps will come along. What's belief and what's truth? Yeah? Is it a belief that you have, that you're telling yourself? Or is there truth? So if you're telling yourself, I'm not good enough for this job, like myself, if I tell myself I'm not good enough for this job, I obviously am. The truth doesn't back up the belief, because I obviously am very good enough, right? There's no doubt. But if you tell yourself you're not, and you've got nobody, even if you're in your job and you're saying you're not good enough, if nobody around you is saying that you're not good enough, then you must be doing something right again, right? Because someone will definitely let you know if you're not like getting up to scratch or up to par or something, right? And then sometimes we can get into situations where we might bite off more than we can chew, or we didn't have an expectation. We had an expectation of something to be a bit easier, and it wasn't. The expectation was a little bit higher than that, right? Or would have been better if we was a little bit higher than that. But you know what? It happens. Again, it's back to that mistake thing. Okay, you might have bit off a bit more than you can chew. Okay, right? But and then that's the truth. So, and then being able to react on that and do something about that. But if you're telling yourself something that isn't true at all, and there's no evidence of it, then it's a belief, guys. So, look at your beliefs and your truths. Own it. Yeah. I know when I'm working with guys and I hear people say, my therapist, and they're referring to me, I used to get a little bit like, oof, right? Because again, you go straight back to that imposter thing. I'm not a degree person. How can I be a therapist? But you know what, guys? That's what I'm doing. Right? It goes back to that truth and belief again. I'm doing that job. That's what I'm doing. Now, am I completely all that's what I do? No. And that's not how I work at all. And that's not how I want to work. I want to be completely different from what the regular therapist, if you want to call it regular, I don't know what regular is. But, I've done a lot of therapy in the past myself. I do things differently. And, I like to, yes, work on the mind of people, absolutely 100%. But the ultimate gain is to have that person shift and change their lives. I've had people come walking into me saying, I'm fed up in my job now. And it's like, okay, and then we do something about it. So own it, guys, right? If you're doing that type of job and someone's calling you that, just because you haven't got that degree doesn't mean you haven't got the experience to do that job or that position, otherwise you wouldn't be there. Yeah? Again, you get found out really, really quick. You know, if I went out and I walked into a car mechanic shop and I said, hey man, I want a job as a car mechanic, they'd know that within 5 minutes. just the way I pick up a tool, they would know that, that I'm not a garage guy, right? So trying to pretend to be would be, again, it's not the truth, right? But if you are doing the job, yeah, if I did walk into that car mechanic shop and I said, hey, listen, I want a car mechanic job and I'm doing that job, then I'm a car mechanic. It don't matter where it's coming from. I'm doing the job, right? So own it. Remember why you started doing the thing that you're doing in the first place, right? Don't lose touch with that, where the root causes of all that comes from. With myself, again, it's helping people. It's living a journey that I've been through and knowing that I can help somebody else catch it or shift their life. And there's nothing more rewarding than that, I tell you what. But if you lose touch with what you're actually doing it for, you know, some people will look at the numbers, some people will look at the money. You know, yes, it's great to get paid. There's things out there that I've written about, you know, your time is currency. You don't earn time back, right? So it's extremely important to get paid. One, it's value. It gives you value and worth, and it also gives the other person value. So, you know, paying for your services is a given, right? But, you know, don't forget where you started. Don't forget what you did it for. Yeah? You're not looking to look a certain way for people. Yeah? You're looking for me, the raw of it is I'm doing it to help another person be able to get out of their way of thinking and to see someone change and shift their minds. That's what I'm doing it for, and to shift their lives. Okay, this one I think I read it somewhere. I remember reading the heading and then I thought, oh, that's bloody really good. But you know, just because it's easy to you, it doesn't mean it's not a skill. And it wasn't worded like that in the article. I'm not sure where I got this from. I know I added my own bit to it, so I can't remember. I know I just looked it up online and see something online when I was doing my research, but think about that, right? You know, if you go into something and you're finding it on the easier side, it's like myself, not easy by any means, but I knew there was something there that I was doing right. I could feel it. There was a certain thing, and my therapy was like, you're talented. You know, you're doing the job. And it's not what I'm saying is easy, because, you know, if you're finding yourself, you know, you've got to work at it, but it's there. You're good at it. It's like when I went into chefing, it was like a natural thing. It just felt like a natural process. It's the same with what I'm in now. It just feels natural, like I belong here, right? But it doesn't mean it's not a skill. And what we do is, and especially if you get into something to where you're working at it and you're building that skill, and that skill does become easier, which is what you're looking for. You're looking to be proficient and good at what you're doing, right? It doesn't mean it's just, you know, it's not worth anything now because it's become easier for you. It just means that you're damn good at what you do now. You've honed it down. You're really good at what you're doing now. You've honed your skill, right? And that gets easier with time and knowledge and work, right? Now, this is a big one, guys. Let go of the perfection, yeah? Because guess what? You're not, right? You're not perfect. Nobody is. It doesn't exist. Get the word out of your vocabulary, guys. When you hear yourself saying perfect, stop it and tell yourself no such word as perfect. I don't even when I say it and hear it, it sounds weird to me. That word, perfect, don't exist. Who sets the standard at perfect, right? But I'll tell you what, guys, it's going to let you down if you have it in your vocabulary, because because especially if you've got that imposter syndrome going on, because you're going to feel like you're never good enough, and then that goes down to, you know, feeling like an imposter, right? So get that word out your mouth. You know, the ego will come up and it's going to try and protect itself every single time. If you want to go forward and move, drop the ego. Totally drop the ego. All right? Because otherwise it's gonna keep protecting. It's gonna cause you anxieties. You're gonna keep on trying to move towards that whatever the heck perfection is. It's a bunch of bullshit word is what it is. It's a terrible word. There's a lot of words that need to go out in a bloody English dictionary. And that's a big one, right? Because it really will let you down every time. There's a whole subject we could talk about just around that bloody word, right? But the other thing is, and the last one I've put down here, is hold your head up with pride, yeah? Be proud of what you got. Hold your shoulders back. Lift your head up and say, this is what I am. Because there's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself. It's not cocky. You know, I had a conversation with a client around that, about what's cocky and what's pride. You know, cocky is, to me, it's like covering up insecurities. Why are you being cocky? There's an ego in the way or something. They act a certain way, right? But when you're proud, there's nothing wrong with saying you're proud. You don't have to try. You don't even have to really tell people, because they'll know. When you hold your shoulders back and you lift your head up and you walk down the street with an air of grace and pride in yourself. I'm not even talking about your careers, guys. That's just part of it. But just in yourself, knowing who you are and having pride in yourself goes down a long, long way. But have that pride in what you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with having that pride, right? So just remember, guys, you can do this. You can work through this, yeah? Just do the practices, lift your head up with pride, and know who you are within the job that you're in, because someone else is not going to give you that credit, guys. You're going to give that credit to yourself. I hope this helped a bunch of people. It's all kinds of things that I look at myself, and I know that what helps me can help others. Please go out there and check out my YouTube channel, and I'm on Instagram too. Hit the old like and subscribe on my YouTube channel, please. I'm trying to get that up and building, and if you go and look at it, I've got like 200 plus videos out there, and it's all to do with, you know, with the way of life and moving forward and empowerment and positive mental attitude, and it's a way to live, guys. But help me to get to more people by going out there and subscribing, passing me around. Give a like on the podcast, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Much love.